They didn't scream it. That's what I remember most. No fists through drywall. No broken dishes. No sobbing or theatrics. Just those quiet, splintered words at the dinner table, calm as the clink of a fork. "You're not my real dad. Don't talk to me like you are." Ben said it first. 14. Hair too long. Eyes always half-lidded like he was bored with the world. He stared straight through me when he said it, like I was some teacher trying too hard. Like I was a joke. A man pretending. His sister, Laura, didn't say anything. She just kept chewing, slow and steady, like she didn't hear it, like she didn't need to. That was her way. Cold detachment. Her silence was the real blade in that house. She was 16 then, sharp-tongued when she wanted to be. Most days she didn't bother with words, just disdain. And their mother, my wife, just sipped her wine. That deep red silence I had come to know too well. Not defense, not denial, just distance. She never corrected them, never pushed back. If anything, she leaned back and let the moment pass like steam from the pot. It wasn't the first insult, but it was the first time it landed without apology. No rushed explanations, no guilt-touched reassurances, just that sentence, and then the scrape of a chair as Ben stood and walked away. I sat there, staring at his empty plate, watched the mashed potatoes stiffen under the overhead light, listened to the hum of the fridge and the slow beat of my own pulse in my ears. Lara stood next, silent, no look, no acknowledgement. She brushed past me like I wasn't even furniture. Elise didn't move. "Anything you want to say?" I asked. She blinked slowly, as if just waking up. "He's a teenager, Paul." That was all. Like I'd scolded a puppy for chewing shoes. I wanted to say more. To yell, maybe. I didn't. Instead, I stared down into my plate and swallowed the bitterness like another cold bite of meatloaf. Tasted like nothing. 6 years I had spent with them. Not for them. I met Elise when the kids were still small enough to need booster seats. Her ex, Aaron, had walked out when Laura was 9, Ben 7. He sent the occasional gift, headphones, cash in cards, the kind of parenting you can do from 1,000 miles away without missing your golf tee time. Elise used to call him the tourist. He'd visit just enough to take the credit and leave before the dishes piled up. I never tried to replace him. I didn't walk in with rules or a raised voice. I showed up. I fixed what broke. I filled the fridge. I helped with algebra and drove to swim meets. I cleared leaves from the gutters, repaired fences after storms, stayed up late redoing Lara's science fair board because she forgot it was due in the morning. I was building something, or thought I was, but it was like hammering nails into wet wood. Every effort sank in and vanished. No thanks. No recognition. Just expectations growing like weeds in a yard nobody watered but me. I bought Ben his first bike. He told his mother his uncle gave it to him. I paid for Lara's summer art program. She posted a picture with the caption, "Thanks, Mom." I started noticing the pattern. Whenever I gave, they turned their heads. Whenever I denied, a new phone, a later curfew, anything that required backbone, suddenly I was overstepping. A stranger laying down rules in a house that wasn't mine. The worst of it wasn't even the kids. It was Elise. Her silence grew louder every year. When they disrespected me, she'd laugh it off. When I brought it up, she'd deflect. "They're teenagers, Paul. You take things too personally." And maybe I did, because I wasn't supposed to just give without return. I wasn't built for that kind of silent martyrdom. I came from a different stock. My father taught me, you show up, you stay, and you earn your place with sweat and truth. I thought that was enough. I thought that earned something. Turns out, all it earned was an empty seat at a dinner table I paid for. They lived in the house I renovated, slept under the roof I reshingled, wore clothes bought with hours of my back bent under hot steel and welding sparks. I installed the dishwasher. I bled in the garden trying to revive dead soil for a vegetable bed that only I watered. I showed up at every school meeting, every parent-teacher night, every dance recital where Lara refused to wave back at me. Still, I told myself it would change. Kids rebel. They grow out of it. One day they'd look back and understand. But respect doesn't arrive by calendar. It has to be taught. And Elise never taught them to respect me because deep down I think she never expected them to. There was a moment last year. One that stayed lodged in my memory like a sliver under the skin. Ben had broken his arm falling off a skateboard. We spent 6 hours in the ER. I stayed the whole time, drove him there, held the clipboard while he signed, stood beside him while he got the cast. Elise showed up at hour 4, coffee in hand, still in her work dress. Ben lit up when she entered, called her Mom with a smile that could have melted glass. Then the nurse looked at me and asked, "Are you the father?" Before I could answer, Ben said, "No, just that." A flat denial. I'm not sure what hurt more. The nurse's awkward nod or Elise's silence after. She didn't correct him. She didn't say anything. And I didn't sleep for 2 nights after. The distance wasn't sudden. It was the kind of slow erosion you don't see until the foundation starts to crack. The way Elise stopped texting me during the day. The way Laura rolled her eyes if I entered the room. The way Ben started locking his door. But that dinner was the line in the sand. Not because it was new. Because it was the first time I saw that they didn't even need to yell to break me. They just had to speak plainly. Because they meant it. Because they believed it. You're not my real dad. Don't talk to me like you are. And Elise? She passed the salt. That was the night something inside me. Something warm, something foolish. Turned off like a light in a back room no one visits anymore. You don't realize how much you hold together until you stop holding anything at all. After that dinner, after Ben's calm little execution, after Elise passed him the salt like nothing had cracked, the house felt colder. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was the way I moved, slower, quieter, like a man nursing an invisible injury. Or maybe the house had always been cold, and I had just convinced myself it wasn't. Days passed. Short words. Shorter glances. Elise acted like nothing happened. But the kids, they had learned something from that night. They learned I wouldn't fight back. They learned their mother wouldn't step in. And once a boundary is proven weak, teenagers tear through it like wolves smelling blood. They stopped greeting me entirely. If I walked into a room, they left. If I spoke, they answered with shrugs or single-syllable grunts. Little sounds that said you're nothing here. They didn't need to insult me with words anymore. Their silence did the job. But I kept giving. Not out of kindness, out of habit. Habit is a kind of prison. I woke up, went to work, paid bills, came home, cooked, cleaned, repaired whatever needed repairing. I moved through the house like a ghost tied to the foundations he built. Then came the night everything finally snapped. Ben stumbled home. It was close to midnight. I was in the living room, half asleep on the sofa, TV on mute. Headlights swept across the wall, then swerved, then cut out. A door slammed. Another. Voices, slurred ones. 2 sets. I stepped outside. Ben was leaning against the old pickup I'd bought him 2 years earlier. The paint was new because I'd sanded and resprayed it myself last summer. His friend, some kid I didn't know, was passed out in the passenger seat, vomit drying on his shirt. The stench hit me before the panic did. "What the hell happened?" I said. Ben blinked at me, confused. Or maybe annoyed. Hard to tell with teenagers. "Nothing," he mumbled. "You drove drunk," I said. "Give me the keys." He clutched his pocket. "It's fine. We're home." I stepped closer. He smelled like cheap vodka and energy drinks. "Ben, give me the keys. Now." For a second, he hesitated. Just a second. Then he fished them out and dropped them into my palm. Not with remorse, but with the lazy defiance of someone who didn't think consequences applied to him. "Go inside," I said. "Your mom and I will talk about this tomorrow." He scoffed. "Why? So you can pretend you're in charge?" I didn't answer. I just locked the truck, checked his friend's pulse, steady, and carried the limp kid inside. Laid him on the couch, turned him on his side. I did everything a father should do, except I wasn't one. They had made that clear. The next morning, Ben came downstairs with a hangover and an attitude, both louder than necessary. Elise was at the stove scrambling eggs like nothing was wrong. She didn't ask where the extra teenager on the couch had come from. Ben, I said quietly, we need to talk about last night. He didn't sit, didn't look at me, just stood by the fridge, chugging water like he deserved forgiveness on tap. You're grounded, I told him. No car, no friends, no late nights. You put yourself and someone else at risk. This isn't a joke. That's when it happened. He turned, met my eyes. No fear, no guilt, just that cold teenage certainty, the kind that comes from being told your entire life that you don't have to respect the people who raise you. You can't ground me, he said, voice flat. You're not my real dad. Elise didn't drop the spatula, didn't gasp, didn't correct him. Her silence was a choice, the same choice she had made 100 times before. And Laura, who'd wandered in halfway through, leaned against the wall and smirked. And then she added her part. Soft, deadly. You didn't raise us, so don't expect respect. Ben watched her, almost proud, like she'd said the thing he was too tired to repeat again. I felt it then, the shift. Something sliding out of place inside me. A click. A quiet reconfiguration of a man who had spent too long holding up a house built on borrowed loyalty. I didn't shout, didn't slam anything, didn't lecture or argue or list the years I had poured into them like water down a drain. I just breathed. Slow, deep, final. And inside that breath I made a decision. A silent one. The kind that changes the air. Fine. If I wasn't their father, then I wouldn't act like one. If my authority meant nothing, then my sacrifice would mean nothing too. If they wanted me at arm's length, then the distance would become real. I finished my coffee, set the mug down, looked at Elise, waiting for her to step in, to say something human, something supportive, something that acknowledged the man who had carried her family for 6 years. She didn't. She went back to stirring eggs. And that was the moment. More than Ben's words, more than Lara's scorn. That told me exactly what this family thought of me. Not a partner, not a parent, placeholder, a wallet, convenience. So I rose from the table, went to my toolbox, pulled out my work gloves, and walked outside. The kids watched me through the window, confused, maybe curious. Elise called after me, asking where I was going. I didn't answer. I walked straight to Ben's truck, opened the hood, and removed the starter relay. Simple, clean, quiet, effective. Then I walked inside, grabbed my wallet, my boots, and my keys, and left, not to punish them, not to scare them, but because something inside me had tipped over. Because a man can only carry so much disrespect before it grinds the bones underneath. I drove until the highway turned into quiet, until the hum of the engine drowned out the echoes of the kitchen. It wasn't anger, not anymore. It was clarity. They didn't want me as a father? Fine. Then from that day on, I stopped being one. I didn't raise my voice. That's what shocked them the most. I didn't slam doors, didn't pack a bag, didn't even sleep on the couch. That would have given them something to react to. A scene, a warning, a line in the sand they could pretend to step back from. Instead, I went quiet. I started waking before the rest of them, showering in silence, leaving the house by 6, sometimes earlier. I turned off the lights they left on, took my coffee to go, stopped cooking dinner. Elise noticed first. You're working a lot lately? She said one night as she poured herself a glass of wine. I didn't look up from my emails. Yep. That was all I gave her. One word. The kids didn't notice anything, not at first. They still came home to a warm house, still opened a fridge stocked with food, still used the Wi-Fi, still charged their phones, still rode the luxury of my labor like it was air. But I had already started pulling the nails out of the frame. I changed the login to the family streaming accounts, removed their profiles, canceled Lara's monthly beauty box subscription, blocked the autopay on Ben's car insurance. That weekend, I watched him walk out to the truck, try to start it, then curse when it wouldn't turn over. He texted me, "Truck won't start. Can you fix?" I stared at the screen for a full minute. Then I replied, "Ask your dad." No response. Later, I heard him cursing in the driveway. Heard the hood slam. Heard Laura laugh from the upstairs window. Felt good. Not satisfying. Not righteous. Just clean. Like wiping grease from your hands after years of pretending the mess was normal. I didn't announce anything. Didn't leave notes or ultimatums. I just stopped. Stopped reminding them to take the trash out. Stopped fixing things. Stopped pretending to care whether they ate dinner or didn't. Stopped doing what a father does. Because I wasn't one. They had made that clear. You're not our real dad. You didn't raise us. Fine. Then I'm not your real provider. And I'm not raising you anymore. Let the math do the talking. Gas cards? Turned off. Chloe's music lessons? Cancelled. The cell phone plan? Slimmed down to 2 lines, mine and Elise's. They'd have to figure it out on their own. It took 4 days for the silence to turn into noise. Laura stormed into the kitchen first. My phone's not working. Did you forget to pay it? No, I said. I stopped paying it. She blinked. What? I stopped paying for things that aren't mine. She stared. I'm your stepdaughter. You made it very clear I'm not your father. Elise looked up from her laptop but said nothing. Just shifted slightly, like maybe she'd finally started hearing the sounds of the floor collapsing. Ben followed the next day. My gas card's been declined. I can't get to school. Sounds like something your dad should help with, I said, sipping my coffee. I don't even talk to him. Not my problem. He stood there, stunned. The kind of stunned that only comes from learning that the ground you stand on wasn't free. Elise waited until the kids left. You're being cruel, she said. I looked at her, really looked. She hadn't aged much. Same wine lips, same passive eyes. But something in her mouth was twitching. The beginnings of guilt, or fear, or both. No, I said. I'm being consistent. They're kids, Paul. No, they're almost grown. And they've been told their whole lives they don't owe me a shred of respect. You let them believe that. You reinforced it. So now they can live with it. You're punishing them for... I'm not punishing anyone. I'm stepping back, like they asked me to. She didn't speak after that. Just sat there, slowly realizing that the credit card she used for the school field trip had been mine. That the dental insurance for Lara's braces came through my job. That the roof above her head, the one she never thanked me for, was kept dry by my hands and hours and sweat. I think that's when it really hit her. The bill was coming due, and the one who'd always paid had stopped. That week the heater broke. First cold snap of the fall. I didn't fix it. That weekend, Lara missed a dance workshop because I didn't pay the registration. She cried in her room. Elise went upstairs, tried to comfort her. I stayed downstairs and watched the news. The house started to shift. In small ways, like how a tree leans before it falls. Ben missed 2 classes because the bus didn't show and the truck still wouldn't start. Elise had to drive him. She called me on her way home, voice tight. You could have told me you disabled the truck. I could have, I said. Long pause. Is this how it's going to be now? It's how it always should have been. Respect in, effort out. No respect, no effort. She hung up, but she knew I was right. The groceries started running low. Nobody refilled them. I bought only what I ate. Coffee, eggs, bread. They stared at the fridge like it had betrayed them. Lara asked Elise why nobody went shopping. Elise didn't answer. Because she couldn't. Because answering meant admitting that the man they ignored had also been the man who fed them. A week later, I came home and found Ben under the truck. He had the hood up, grease on his sleeves, tools scattered in the driveway like a battlefield. He was watching a YouTube video, pausing, rewinding, watching again. The look on his face wasn't defiance. It was fear. The kind of fear young men get when they realize the world doesn't give a damn who your father is if you've got no one to call. I didn't say a word. I walked to the edge of the driveway, crouched down, and handed him a wrench. The right size. He took it. Didn't look at me. But he said, quiet. Almost ashamed. I didn't know you did this much. I nodded. That's all. He looked up. Met my eyes. I'm sorry. Not dramatic. Not loud. But real. I stood. You'll figure it out, I said. Then I walked back inside. 2 days later, I found Lara sitting outside school on the curb, knees hugged to her chest, cold wind, hair in her face. I pulled over. She didn't look up when I rolled down the window. They won't let me go on the trip, said the payment bounced. I didn't say anything. She wiped her eyes. He didn't answer. I called him. Dad. He didn't answer. Her voice cracked on the word. You were always there, she whispered. Still, I didn't move. I didn't hug her. I didn't tell her it was okay. I didn't say I told you so. I just let the silence sit between us like a third passenger. Sometimes presence is louder than comfort. Later that night, Elise came to me. She didn't wear the wine lips. She didn't wear the distance. She looked tired, older. I should have backed you up, she said. Years ago. I nodded. I let them think. I let myself think. You'd just always be there. No matter what. I didn't answer. Because she knew. She looked down at her hands. Can we reset? Be a team now? I looked at her for a long time. Then I spoke. I won't be disrespected again. Not by them. Not by you. I understand. Respect is the price of help. If it's not paid, the support ends. From now on, that's the rule. She nodded. Okay. And that was the shift. Not forgiveness. Just clarity. I didn't become their father again. I became something harder. Something sharper. The line had been drawn. And now they had to decide which side to live on. They didn't thank me. Not really. Even after the apology, even after the silence turned to recognition. There were no long embraces, no hallmark moments. No one rushed to call me Dad. The word never came. It hung in the air like smoke from a fire already put out. Not needed anymore, but not forgotten either. Ben started waking early. Earlier than me some mornings. I'd hear the rattle of sockets in the garage. The low hum of the space heater I bought for winter repairs. He'd bring in grease on his hands and pride in his chest. The kind of pride you don't get from video games or allowance. The kind that comes from turning a wrench until your knuckles split. He landed a part-time job at a mechanic's shop near the highway. Wore a name patch on his shirt like it meant something. And maybe it did. Maybe for the first time in his life something finally did. One evening, he came home with a busted carburetor tucked under his arm. Asked if he could use my vice clamp. I nodded. He didn't ask for help. But I offered. Spent 3 hours beside him. No music. No chatter. Just the shared rhythm of tools and breath and oil. When we were done, he wiped his hands, nodded at the rebuilt part and said, You taught me more in 3 hours than school did in 3 years. I said nothing. Just gripped his shoulder. Once. Lara took longer. She pulled away first. That's how she always responded to shame. With silence, distance, sarcasm like armor. But eventually the cracks showed. I caught her at the table late one night, redoing her resume. She didn't notice me. Or maybe she did and pretended not to. She was applying for a babysitting job. Helping kids from broken homes. Volunteering at a local youth center. On one of the applications, I saw the essay prompt. Why do you want to work with children of divorce? She'd written, because sometimes the person who shows up every day isn't the one with your blood, but the one who bleeds for you anyway. I didn't say anything. I just walked past her, slow, and left a cup of tea beside her elbow. She didn't look up, but she whispered, Thanks. That's all I needed. Elise changed too. Not overnight, but slowly. She started listening. Not waiting to talk, actually listening. She backed me up when rules were questioned. She stopped making excuses for their behavior. She stopped drinking wine during the week. She started remembering what it meant to stand beside someone, not just benefit from their labor. We sat on the porch one night, one of the few calm ones, when the heat finally broke and the air didn't taste like stress. She lit a candle. We didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, I kept waiting for them to love you. I looked out at the street. Empty. Quiet. They didn't have to love me, I said. They just had to respect me. She nodded slowly. Do you think they do now? I didn't answer, because I didn't know. Respect isn't a finish line. It's not something you reach and celebrate. It's daily. It's small. It's in the tone of a voice, the effort behind an action. It's in the space between silence and expectation. Ben started paying for his own gas. Lara offered to cover part of the phone bill once she started babysitting. Not because I asked. Because they knew. They knew the house didn't run on magic. That food didn't appear. That tuition didn't pay itself. That behind every closed cabinet was a receipt, a decision, a sacrifice. And the ghost? Their biological father, the man whose blood they once used as a shield, vanished again. No birthday cards. No check-ins. No surprise visits. Just silence. And that silence no longer had power. Because now they knew what it meant. They knew the weight of an absence that doesn't feed, or clothe, or stay. He was a name on a birth certificate. I was the man in the kitchen frying eggs at 6 a.m. They never said it, but their eyes changed. Less sharp, less dismissive. They started asking instead of demanding. Started saying please. Started saying thank you. I didn't become their father, but I became the man who stayed. The man who showed up. Every morning. Every weekend. Every crisis. And when Ben blew a tire on the freeway, I was the first number he called. When Lara got her first paycheck and wanted help opening a savings account, she handed me the envelope and said, "Can you show me?" And I did, because I wasn't trying to earn a title anymore. I had let go of that fantasy, the perfect blended family, the photos on the wall that meant something deeper. That dream was dead, and in its place I found something else. Truth, not the sweet kind. Not the movie script version. The bitter, slow kind that sits in your bones and makes you colder, but clearer. They would never love me like their father, but they would remember me for what I fixed, for what I paid, for what I taught without preaching, for what I didn't say when I could have screamed. And maybe one day when they have their own kids, when someone steps into their lives and offers help without recognition, they'll feel that weight. And maybe then they'll know. Being a father isn't biology. It's consistency. The standing where others walked away. The showing up even when they slammed the door in your face. But it's also knowing when to stop. When to draw the line. When to say, if I am nothing to you, then I won't pay the price of being everything. That's the lesson. That's what stayed. And now I ask you, the one listening, the one wondering if I went too far. Was I wrong? Was I cruel to let them feel the cold that I stood in for years? Or was that the only way they'd ever learn what warmth really costs? Tell me, would you have endured it? Or would you have finally, like me, stepped away?